Okay guys, so we're gonna start doing some hand sewing. I wanted to show you just how the very basics of how to get started. So first you have your thread and your needles. Again, this is my brand new package of needles. If you do have a multi-pack, avoid any of the ones that have the really large eyes in them. It's going to be really tempting because, oh, they have a larger eye, and that means that they're going to be way easier to see and use. But really just go for the basics right there. Um, I'm going to set these aside. So I have my needle, and now with a brand new spool of thread, you're going to see there's going to be a sticker on either end, and there's going to be a little notch in it. That little notch is to keep your thread from unraveling and unspooling on you. So you're just going to kind of, sometimes it can be really fussy. Um, pull out a piece. I'm using black thread because my fabric that I'm going to be sewing on is lighter. I'm going to cut off the factory end just because it's going to fray and be ugly. I'm using black thread just because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing better, but when you're stitching on a lighter thread, a lighter fabric, use a lighter thread. Darker fabric, use a dark thread. So I just threaded my needle. I might have made that look really easy to some of you. Done this a few times. Anyways, and so I just threaded my needle with one end, and now I'm putting the two ends of my thread together, and I'm just going to tie a simple over-under knot. Sometimes I call it like a number 6 knot. Whatever you want to call it, just so that you don't do like a standard like shoe tying knot. You want something that's going to slide and not slide and move around on you. So a nice standard little knot like that works perfectly. A tip is you never want to tie your thread right directly to the needle. That's a bad habit. Always tie it at the end. The needle's not going to come off now, but actually having a little bit of slide and flex in the thread is going to help you along. It's going to be better for you. Also, you don't want to have a knot right here because then that knot, you'll be pushing through your fabric every time and you're going to create bigger holes. So that's what we want to avoid. So now I have my two pieces, and for this, we're just going to do a running stitch. I'm going to show you on this piece. I think it will be easier to see. So for starters, you're going to take and just do a little bit of a down and then back up. So you can kind of see I've gone through both sides, down and back up. Again, we're going to be doing a running stitch. A running stitch is kind of your baseline stitches, what you're used to seeing whenever if you've ever might have sewn before. Sorry, I didn't tell you what I was just doing. So because I have my knot in the end, I then send my needle through the gap between my two threads, and then I pull that tight. That is going to be a way more secure fixing for your thread. Don't just rely on this knot. The knot can pull through. This won't pull through. So for a running stitch, you're going to go along your line, and it's just a simple up, down, or down, up. So I'm going to try and keep my stitches relatively small. Don't make really big stitches. The smaller your stitches, the stronger your seam. So I'm going to go along and just push down, back up, and pull. I'm going to repeat that. Down, up, and pull. And you're like, oh gosh. So if that happens to you, if you like go to pull it and it's not, sometimes initially the thread will get kind of twisted on itself and it doesn't want to pull through perfectly initially. There is stuff called quilter's wax or tailor's wax that you can put on threads to make it not tangle up so much, but you'll be fine without it. So if you look, you can see it should start to look like a little bit of a dashed line or a dotted line. So, and if you get more confident, you can do a few at a time. Do try to keep your stitches fairly consistent. So you can see I've gone up, down, a few times now. And I will pull. Oop. So obviously, if this happens to you, don't be like, oh my God, now it's all tangled. Nope, it's fine. Just be patient, loosen it up, and you'll be fine. So that's your basic idea of hand sewing. So you can do this, go all the way along. I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing sewing. You can see when I get to a pin, I'm just choosing to go right on top. You can choose to take it out at that point. I will take mine out later. Once you get to the end though, you're going to ask, well, what do I do when I'm at the end and I need to tie it off? So what you'll do is you're actually going to do a small stitch. So I'm going to end it here just for sake of idea. I'm going to just do a tiny stitch right here, in and back out. And then before I pull this tight, do you see how it makes this loop? I'm going to take my thread and actually go through that loop, and by pulling that tight, boop, there's a knot. And then you can just cut it and carry on. So I could just, doop, all done. So that is your base running stitch. That is all you need to do for right now to put your pieces together. All right, good luck.